Hello and welcome. You're re-listening to a British English story designed to help you improve your listening skills in a calm and natural way. In this episode, you'll hear a dark and mysterious story set in an underground station where time behaves strangely, and ordinary decisions carry unusual consequences. This story is suitable for upper intermediate to advanced learners, and it's best enjoyed with headphones. Try to relax. Focus on the sounds and let the language flow naturally. There's no need to understand every word. Just listen, feel the rhythm, and enjoy the journey. Let's begin. The morning train was late, which in London felt like a personal insult. Elliot Graves stood on platform 9, collar raised, breaths fogging the air. It was 5:42 a.m., too early for chatter, too late for dreams. Across the platform, a woman in a navy coat stared at the departure board without blinking. She hadn't moved since Elliot arrived. That alone made him uneasy. Londoners moved constantly, even when standing still. The loudspeaker crackled. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize for the delay." The voice stopped. No explanation followed. People looked up, irritated but unsurprised. A man sighed dramatically. Someone checked their phone. Life continued. Yet the silence that followed felt heavier, thicker, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Elliot glanced at his watch again. The second hand twitched, then paused. That was impossible. He tapped the glass. Nothing. Around him, the world slowed in subtle, disturbing ways. A dropped coffee cup hovered just above the concrete. A pigeon mid-hop froze like a poorly rendered photograph. Only Elliot could move. His heart hammered. This wasn't panic. Panic was loud. This was colder, sharper. "Right," he muttered, in the very British way one does when reality misbehaves. "That's new." The woman in the navy coat turned her head. She smiled. "You noticed too," she said calmly. Her voice echoed slightly, as if the station were much larger than before. Elliot swallowed. "Noticed what? Exactly?" "That time has stepped out for a smoke," she replied. "It does that sometimes, usually at stations." She began walking towards him. Her footsteps were the only sound in the frozen world. "You shouldn't be able to move," Elliot said. "You shouldn't be able to either," she answered. Yet here we are. She stopped an arm's length away. Her eyes were sharp, observant, irritatingly amused. "Elliot Graves," she said. 34, archivist. Afraid of heights, disappointed in birthdays, and convinced your life was meant to start properly next year. His mouth went dry. "Who are you?" She extended her hand. "Name's Margaret. And you're standing on the wrong platform." The station lights flickered. Somewhere far away, a train screamed. Time snapped back into place. Noise crashed over them. The coffee cup shattered. The pigeon flew off. People complained. Margaret was gone. But in Elliot's coat pocket, something heavy hadn't been there before. A small, old-fashioned train ticket. Printed in faded ink. Chapter 2, The Ticket That Shouldn't Exist. Elliot didn't notice he was walking until he reached the end of the street. That, in itself, worried him. London usually demanded attention. Traffic, voices. Sirens, yet the city felt oddly considerate this morning, as though it knew better than to interrupt his thoughts. He stopped beneath a flickering street lamp and finally dared to look inside his coat pocket. The ticket was real. Thick card, rough edges. Warm somehow, like it had recently been held. Destination, nowhere. Return, uncertain. "No," he said quietly. That's not how tickets work. A man passing by glanced at him, nodded sympathetically, and kept walking. In London, talking to oneself was rarely questioned. It was considered a survival skill. Elliot folded the ticket and slipped it into his wallet, hoping foolishly that the act might make the morning normal again. It didn't. At work, the archive room smelled wrong. To clean. as though the dust had been offended and left overnight. Elliot hung his coat, switched on the desk lamp, and opened the ledger he'd been cataloging for weeks. The page number had changed. Yesterday, he was certain he'd stopped at page 214. Today, the book lay open at 215. He frowned, checking his notes. No mistake. The handwriting was his. Precise, pedantic, comfortingly dull. Someone or something had continued without him. "You're losing it," he muttered, though the words lacked conviction. At precisely 11:17 a.m., the office phone rang. Nobody ever rang that phone. Elliot stared at it for a full 3 rings before answering. Archive department. Silence. Then breathing. Slow, patient. "Hello," he said. "You didn't ask the important question," said a familiar voice. His grip tightened. "Margaret, well done," she replied. "Most people pretend they imagine me. Where are you?" "Close enough to be inconvenient." A pause. "Have you checked the ticket yet?" she asked. "I have," Elliot snapped. "It's nonsense. Everything important is," Margaret said lightly. "Look at the back." Heart pounding, Elliot pulled the ticket from his wallet. He hadn't looked at the back. In neat, impossibly elegant handwriting, a time was written. 23:59, tonight. "And if I don't go?" Elliot asked. The breathing on the other end deepened, as if she were smiling. "Then tomorrow won't fit properly," she said. "Chairs will be too close to tables. Words will arrive before thoughts. Trains will stop where they shouldn't." "That's ridiculous." "Yes," Margaret agreed. "That's London." The line went dead. Elliot sat back, staring at the ticket until the numbers blurred. He worked the rest of the day automatically, body present, mind elsewhere. When evening came, he didn't remember leaving the building, only finding himself walking again without deciding to towards a station he never used. There was no sign for it. There never was. The entrance appeared between a closed bookshop and a kebab place that claimed to be the best since 1997. Elliot was certain the Gap hadn't been there yesterday. He checked his watch. 23:58. The station steps descended into yellow light and humming silence. One platform. One train. Waiting. Margaret stood beside it, hands in her coat pockets, looking entirely unsurprised. "You're late," she said. "I'm early," Elliot replied weakly. "Same thing here." The doors slid open. Inside, the carriage was almost empty. A man reading a newspaper printed decades out of date. A woman knitting something that looked suspiciously like a map. Elliot hesitated. "What happens if I get on?" he asked. Margaret met his eyes. "You'll finally arrive somewhere," she said, "whether you like it or not." The clock above the platform clicked to 23:59. The train sighed. Elliot stepped forward. Chapter 3. A Train That Remembers. The doors closed with a sound like a final decision. Elliot stood gripping the metal pole, unsure whether the train was moving or the world outside was simply giving up. The lights flickered, not violently, but thoughtfully, as if considering their options. "Tickets," said a voice. Elliot turned. The conductor hadn't been there a moment ago. He wore an old uniform, carefully pressed, painfully polite. His face was ordinary in a way that made it hard to remember. Elliot handed over the ticket. The man examined it, nodding slowly. "Ah, first journey. I beg your pardon," Elliot said. "Everyone does," the conductor replied. "Some just don't notice." He clipped the ticket once. The sound echoed too long. The train lurched. Outside the windows, London slid past, but incorrectly. Streets bent where they shouldn't. Reflections moved a second too late. A red bus passed with no passengers, no driver, no destination. Elliot's stomach tightened. "This isn't a line I recognize," he said. Margaret sat opposite him now, legs crossed, studying him with professional interest. "It's not a line," she said. "It's a correction." "A correction for what?" For people who've been slightly out of place their entire lives. The woman knitting looked up. Her needles clicked faster. You felt it, didn't you? Margaret continued. Birthdays that disappointed. Jobs that never quite started. That sense that everything important was scheduled for later. Elliot said nothing. Silence confirmed it. The train slowed. A station appeared, unnamed, unfinished. Half-built signs. Benches facing the wrong direction. Clocks all showing different times. The doors opened. This is where you decide, Margaret said softly. Decide what? Whether you step off and fix things, she replied, or stay on and forget why you ever wanted to. Elliot looked down the platform. He saw moments, small ones. Words he never said. Days he avoided. Doors he didn't open because they looked inconvenient. The conductor cleared his throat. End of tolerance, he announced calmly. The doors began to close. Leah moved.